We back. We back. Yo, what up, y'all? If you didn't know, your boy has moved to a new physical location. Was still streaming live from the beautiful YouTube, representing sports affiliation. This is the TSA Hoop Show. I'm your boy JR. I got to my right, if we're looking at the screen the same way, your boy Coach. Man, we've been it's been a very, very, very busy 2 weeks. We got a lot to catch up on, y'all. We got a lot to go over. We got a short amount of time, and it is cold AF. So I'm trying to get back up under this bed once I'm done with this, man. It is let me see here what temperature it is. I believe I woke up and said it was 42 where I'm at.
That's almost the same as here.
So I'm still in California, y'all. We are in, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the area. We're in Santa Cruz County. We're in the mountains of Santa Cruz in Ben Lomond. Beautiful area. You get to wake up and watch turkeys rock across your driveways. Not everything is paved around here. They don't got street lights in a lot of places. But you get great Wi-Fi around here, and it's nice and quiet. I'm telling you. That's why I'm like kind of low and whispering right now, because we also getting situated. I don't know if you can see, like, I got like those tops of like moving boxes behind me. Shout out to Costco for helping us out with that. But yeah, man, it is. Let's go. Let's get it, man. Coach, you have been doing your DFS and punching them out lately, and between that and fantasy, man, you've been pretty busy. That fantasy baseball, if I remember, you've been
I'll be starting up soon, so
you've been pushing out a lot of projects, man. What have you been up to in the last couple of weeks?
Oh, everything's been busy. Hopefully the mic's all right here. I'm not using my traditional mic. It's just the one on this big laptop, so it's better than your typical laptop one, but
yeah,
I was lazy this morning. So mainly it's been NBA DFS, been doing a little bit of NBA props here and there, posting some of them over on Moneyline Go for Price Picks. Price Picks been doing really well besides like one night and like probably last 2-3 weeks. So that's been really good. You can go over there, very small like donation over there to follow those. I've been trying to put more up again. It's been a busy week. I haven't followed NBA quite as much this week, I would say, probably as compared to normal. But in the fantasy league with Iggy, I had to buy this week, so it kind of felt weird not sending your lineup every day. So it gives you a little less reason to follow every day, even though I'm doing the DFS and following everything else like that. It was, you get the weird games with like the Thunder resting everybody.
That was interesting to listen to. So, again, for those who don't know, I had to move over the previous week, the week that we took off, and it went just packing the house a lot, and then having an 8.5-hour drive north, going to work, unpacking, and then I did it again on Friday, which I got the remainder of my stuff in an extra car. But the fun part was, of course, this last drive was a solo drive. So I'm driving up and I'm listening. And coach, as you're putting stuff into the chat about everyone sitting, and we were having that discussion about not Isaiah Joe, but of who was it that we were putting the line on for points?
No, it was
Yesterday?
Isaiah. It was Isaiah Joe. It was at 16.5. You took the under. I took the over. In those situations, though, you have to remember, like,
Yeah.
Who's shooting the ball for this team? So Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins. They didn't even end up starting Caruso in that game either, which I expected him to play limited minutes anyways because they need him in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But Isaiah Joe had a hell of a game for fantasy points, but he got to 16 real life points, which is quite the hook there. But I'm like, in these situations with all those guys ruled out, he averages 0.73. He averages 0.73 real life points per game in those minutes with all those guys off the court. So if he plays 30 minutes, he should get 21 points. And like, somebody has to shoot the ball at the end of the day. Usage has to go somewhere. And he's the guy that gets the biggest beneficiary of usage in those situations. It's him, then Wiggins, and then apparently Jalen Williams, the center, for the triple-double too. So
yeah. Again, I don't. So when I made the bet, granted, I was also like in the middle of this road trip, so I was more focused on that. But I looked at it and I said, how messed up would it be if his line just barely missed? So I took it's been this weird trend, specifically on Prize Picks, where you see the line and the line looks a little too easy given the situation. And again, this is the same day in which Utah and Toronto, two of the worst teams in the NBA right now, basically sat their entire starting rotations against each other. So there was that. And, the Thunder still won, but it was one of those things where it was a good opportunity to get everybody some rest because playoffs are coming, y'all. Playoffs are just over a month away. They start April 19th. If for those of you that are just coming into the NBA, we are about 40-ish, 45 days until playoffs start. So for the LeBron injuries, for the Jalen Brunson injuries, for trying to get guys like Chet Holmgren, right? Like the teams that are in position right now for playoffs, it was only right that you sat them all. And I don't blame you for betting the over on that line, man. Show the dollar, though. Just show the dollar, though.
Yeah. Well, only if you look at that slate, there's only so many people on that slate that could have a 30% usage on that night. It was like him. It was Tatum, somebody, I don't know. There's like 4 guys that probably get 30% usage on that night just in general. So obviously they were great for fantasy purposes.
Yeah.
The guy that actually killed me for DFS purposes that wasn't as good as I did expect. He wasn't a bad play, but, a guy that you wanted like 7X on that day was actually Kenrich Williams, who, does a little bit of everything. So in those situations, you expect him, he's like $3,400, $3,700. You get to like 21, 22 fantasy points for like DFS. It's a decent play, but it's like when there's so much value on the slate, it's like you want him to get closer to 28, 30.
And that value bit a lot. Well, not specifically for him, but for fantasy overall. It was a very weird day of basketball yesterday. We're gonna get to some of that right now. In fact, gotta lead off with the anticipated game of this weekend: Lakers versus Celtics. The two twos going up against each other, and one of these things is not like the other. Okay, let's just put that out there right now. The West is very it's got a lot of traffic right now. They're between from 2 to about 7 right now, 2 to 7 seed, I would say. If we're being a little bit less modest, I would say 2 to 5. So yesterday it was Lakers, Denver at 3, Memphis at 4, and then I believe I can't remember who was at 5 at the time. Yeah, Memphis was at 4, Yeah, I believe Houston was still at 5 at the time, but everyone in the West that was 1 through 10, I put the stat out there in the chat not too long ago. Everyone in the stat was coming off of a win. Every single team. So everyone's coming in strong. And so the reason why I say one of these things not like the other with the Lakers and Celtics is because the Celtics just remind the East every single time that they are the number 2 team. I mean, Cleveland's just way out. They're setting an unprecedented streak right now. And give me just a second because we're talking about the Lakers right now, and someone just decided to pop in and show people. What's good, Rico? Top of the morning to you. You're muted. Hold on. Let me unmute you. I got you.
Appreciate it. What's going on, y'all? Craig, what's going on with you, brother?
Hey.
Good morning. The Lakers, however, also somewhat of the benefit of, I mean, they won some big games close. Don't get me wrong, but were also the benefit of scheduling and the way that other teams have just completely. We haven't talked about I mentioned it, but we haven't talked about the fall off of Memphis and Houston. We haven't talked about the mix up, the on again, off again Warriors. We haven't talked about how Denver is just going through and just saying, I'm gonna show you something. Okay, so all of that together, we don't even talk about OKC. We don't talk about Cleveland. And we're going to talk about them because of the number 1 teams are the best teams that playing the best ball. We just mentioned them early in the show, and the reason why them sitting everyone is affecting everyone. But as far as the Lakers being the number 2 seed, they are the benefit of how the records have just panned out for the moment. So first quarter, I just want to throw this out there, was an anomaly. The first quarter shouldn't have been the first quarter. Boston was shooting horribly. Lakers were shooting the lights out. That's the end of the story. Okay. The rest of the game is exactly how the game should have gone, especially with the play of Luka Doncic. I believe you got a little bit of fatigue. Then you got a little bit of lights were a little bit brighter. The moment was a little bit bigger than he could have stepped up into. And between him and LeBron James, the 2 stars just weren't starring. I'm sorry. Despite their stat line, if you watched the game, the shot selection was very poor. Jason Tatum and Al Horford had themselves a phenomenal game. Okay. And for Al Horford, it may not show up on the stat line. This man single-handedly shut the Lakers down. That man's 38. I want what he's having. Okay. I just turned 39 last week, y'all. I'm sitting in cold weather in Ben Lomond. That man is sitting pretty over in Boston. I want what he's having. Okay. Whatever he's doing to shut elite playmakers down. 38 minutes. 38 at 38. Say something, Bama. Say something. What do you guys think of this game? Coach, I'll go to you first. Your thoughts on that game, and then Rico will go to you.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't really watch that one. But it's crazy when you think about Al Horford. Like when you talk about him like that. Remember when he was on OKC for that year when they were so bad, and everybody's just like, "This dude's done. He's going to retire." And this is what 3 years later now, and he's still like. Everybody's goal in life should be is in as good shape as Al Horford by the time they're 38. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Rico, you were tuned into that game. You were tapped in, and you were posting on X. I was following up some updates from you. So
Yeah. And we was vaguely talking about it in the chat every now and then. Like you brought up some good points. I know one of the biggest points was the fact that the absence of Jackson Hayes was felt last night for sure. The lack of a big man. There's no disrespect to like Trey Jemison and whatnot, all the guys we had. I mean, I think with the starting lineup he had, I think it was Vando out there at the 5 to start out for that game. And it was an interesting lineup, but I mean, obviously working with what we got. Granted, I know we got, guys like Alex Lynn and all those other guys on the roster, but they're not the certified bigs that I feel like we need to kind of help contend, in the deep playoff runs. Like, granted, I know Alex Lynn is in the league, but it's like Al Horford we talking about him being 38 years old and torching us as much as he did. And it's tough, man. I was watching that game. I think towards the fourth quarter, we brought the deficit down to like 5 or something like that. And I think it was either Tatum or Brown. Somebody hit a big three, and it just like, well, there goes that momentum that we had. It's like we talk about those fake comebacks as Laker fans. We see those every now and then. So
yeah. And you know what? I'm going to say this right now. Had the Lakers had actually won that game, I would have blamed Boston. Boston was the whole reason for this game. Okay, you can't get like 40 plus from Tatum, 40 plus from JB, and then you have a heck of a game from Al Horford, beat up by as many as 20. I think it was 22 at one point was the lead. Then y'all gonna let this happen again? I mean, I can understand Cleveland, okay, that happening, but Boston, and we're gonna get to the standings in just a second. But specifically for this game, we need to address the fact that Boston has a gas issue. They have a serious, and I don't know if it's being lethargic or some hangover from last year's championship. And yes, they reminded the Lakers why they're champions, but they can't continue to lose these big leads. I'm looking at some of the shot selection throughout the third quarter. Yeah, the defense is great, but when they go up and then they decide to put up these bailout threes, it's like night and day. Their execution is absolutely poor at some points, and it's part of the reason why the Lakers came back last night. It's part of the reason why teams keep coming back against them, and I'm absolutely concerned about their ability to repeat as champions. Like, I know the Lakers had a bad game, but also the Celtics had great players and did not have a complete game. It looked like everyone was just playing pickup ball out there for a while.
And like, I'm gonna add one note to that, because I know this was kind of making rounds on Twitter and whatnot. I think Tatum's minutes, I think he played like 40 plus minutes, like 44, 45 minutes, something like that. I don't know what Brown's was. I think his might have been close to it, but it's like, granted, you're doing this in a regular season game. Some people might, oh God, they did all this against the Lakers. I mean, look, we know that the joke is like, oh yeah, people rest their starters or whatnot, and then once it comes to the Lakers, like, oh, they magically heal up. Like, some of it may have some merit to it. Others, I'm just like, I'm not stressing about it too much. But when you're putting up like that amount of minutes in a regular season game against, you know, the Lakers of all teams, being from Boston, that does kind of have some merit to it as well. You're putting all this energy and effort out there in a regular season game, which, I mean, by all means, go ahead. Like, you're trying to make it a point to make these runs, make those pushes, for seeding once playoff time comes around. But that isn't necessarily sustainable for long periods of time. I know we're looking at somebody like LeBron, but even then, he's taking like rest games every now and then. But he's been playing most of the games throughout this year. But 40 plus minutes in a regular season game on prime time like that, I mean, I feel like that's more so a testament to Tatum. He's like, hey, I'm out here to prove something. But can you consistently do that like in playoff time? Because when the playoffs, you got like maybe a couple days in between games, and you got to try to make sure you're getting your rest up. And that's also something to look at going forward towards the end of the regular season. Granted, depending on what the standings look like towards the end of the year, you have teams that'll be like, oh, we're gonna have this guy not start because we've already got our seating place and all this other stuff and things like that. So that's also something else to look at going forward. But the minutes thing is something that people need to kind of be paying more attention to as well, because we'll see how that plays into the longevity of a deep playoff run, because those minutes start to become notable and become taxing if you're playing 6 to 7 game series every series. I'm not saying that Boston would, depending on who they get matched up with, but that is a real possibility if you're putting all this effort out in these 5, 6, 7 game series. Like, not every series is going to be in 4. Not every series is going to be in 5. Like, you got to realize that. But yeah, that's just something that I've noticed as well that might want to be noted going forward. So
I got 2 things with that. So that game where White and Pritchard both dropped 40 was like, is either the first or second time Celtics teammates have ever done it. But Pritchard didn't play the first 5 minutes of the game. He came off the bench. He played the remaining 43 minutes of that game. He didn't come off the court after he got on the court after that.
Oh my God.
So like, just part of that point there too. The Celtics did rest all their guys the one day too, though.
Yep.
And it was like Pritchard. I think Derek White and Pritchard still played. Derek White, Pritchard still played. So it was White, Peterson, somebody, Quetta, and Luke Cornett that started. I can't remember who the fifth starter was. Somebody that was normally kind of in the rotation though. So, and then they just ran like all the two-way contract G League guys that day. So they are resting guys here and there, but with the minutes perspective, you see teams time and time again, Tom Thibodeau coached teams that runs the minutes in the ground that they die off at the end of the year every single year. There's a reason this happens. Nick Nurse does it. Nick Nurse is notable for doing it too. Granted, it worked out the 1 year with Toronto, but that was also the year Toronto actually had depth too at the same time.
Yep. It's always interesting to talk about depth and in perspective to like which coach is actually utilizing it and how it affects players as far as their longevity throughout the season. Because a few things to that. For those of you that actually keep up with the G League and the contract aspect of everything, two-way contracts are coming to a close. So eligible two-way players, you have one of two choices. You can let them go on and finish their season in the G League, or you can sign them to whatever type of contract you want. You make a roster spot for them, and they are playoff eligible. But otherwise, we'll see you guys next year, no matter what we do. We may send you a ring. We might not, but we may send you an honorary ring. Okay. So it's absolutely imperative that coaches kind of utilize that. The second thing is that outside of all the player awards and eligibility and stuff like that, don't forget that there is a TV contract rule that in place specifically, which says that if it is a primetime game, no matter if it's on a back-to-back or not, you must be eligible as a player unless you have some legitimate reason to be out, which means you can't call out from work just because you decided to go to the boom boom room last night. Okay. you can't sit just because you don't feel like playing against X, Y, and Z. So yes, going up against the Lakers, we do get team does get everyone's best, but the Lakers have a lot. They have fewer this season, but they have a lot of televised games. So if you guys are wondering why the Lakers keep getting everyone's best and why everyone sits before and then comes back, is because they have to be there. Some of these guys are like, I'd rather stay home. You guys are breaking up my recovery right now for having me come back. I don't care if LeBron comes into town. I'm gonna see that man next year. I'm an NBA player. I'm one of the X amount of players that got in, the 450 dudes that got into this league. Okay, I'm good. I will see him. I drink his wine. I see him down the street, whatever. But to Rico's point, yeah, it is always interesting to see that, which actually is better for the Lakers, in fact, because then they do, even though a lot of players aren't 100%, and shout out to Porzingis for whatever he's going through. We read the injury report and he was out with an illness, which was shocking to a lot of us because we thought that plus 10 was because Porzingis was available. Just turns out that it was plus 10 because Luka kept hunting for fouls last night. So whatever.
I think
shout out to Soul Cruise 18 real quick in the comment section, and I believe that's my boy Adam. I didn't know he had YouTube. He's been cutting the cable lately, so if that's you, Adam, appreciate you. He's the Boston Celtics fan who I've had to work with since my start at my job, and it's been nothing but laughs and greatness, and we've been able to go back and forth and talk a lot of maybe I'll get an interview with him and he can talk up and down about his love for Boston Celtics and how he became a fan. It's a very great story. Shout out to his pops. But yeah, guys, media has everything to do with everything that's going on with the Lakers, and we need to get to the rest of this league because we only got so much time, and we got some awards that we've been looking at and we've been handing out. So speaking of, yeah, it's time for us to start voting for your MVP. And Coach, you got some in. I got some in. Rico,
I did not this time. I can briefly talk about it, but if y'all want me to, but
you might get some late demerits. There's no late entry. There's no extension because your grandma has died for a third time. You don't get that. Okay.
How many grandmas you got?
Lord.
Professor's like, I'm not teaching math, but I can count. And I think that you got one too many, unless your pops just got it like that.
Lord.
End of season awards, y'all. Okay, so we here at the Sports Affiliation, we want to give as much in-depth look at our perspective of sport as possible. Of course, we do a lot of fantasy stuff, a lot of football focused stuff, but of course, like Coach was saying, he does some baseball, he messes with some hockey a little bit.
No, I don't touch
hockey.
That's,
Okay,
that's about the one sport I don't touch.
a lot of NBA. He does. You do touch college though. Yeah, you have
A little bit here and there. I don't really put out too much content for like college basketball. I really haven't watched much college basketball at all this year. I'll do some. In the past, I've done some college football content. Right now, I've been doing some NFL draft stuff on my own YouTube channel too.
I've
so
done that.
been touching a lot of that. Watching a lot of prospects right now, though.
And that's to talk about the depth of which we like to approach it. So we also like to get that same energy to the awards, because I believe that it's one thing to sit there and complain about it on X in the void where everyone believes that they're listening and it's really just an echo chamber. But it's another thing to actually put pen to paper and say, we're standing on business, we stand 10 toes in. Okay. And so we decided that we're going to put out who we're voting for and why. So that way, if you want to talk about it, the people, you can go ahead and bring that back to us. We can go ahead and analyze it. We can go put the comments up. And with that being said, before we get to our stuff, I just want to know, we put a form out for you guys, the listeners, to vote on, to talk about, to explain your voting and why. We were going to shout you out. No responses. Okay, so
well, we tried.
Yo, what up, Triple B? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. We tried. We're gonna do it again next week, and we're gonna do this again week after week until the awards actually pop up, because we're watching these games almost as much as you guys are. We're listening to them. We're giving our feedback, and so we got to start with the big one, guys. Coach of the year. I got you. You guys thought I was gonna say MVP, didn't you? No, we saving that for last, suckers. Coach of the year. Coach, I'm gonna start with you. I was reading your response and I like the response. If you want to go ahead and talk about who you picked for Coach of the Year at this point in time, let them know why.
Yeah, so for me, I picked JB Bickerstaff because look at the Detroit Pistons. They were the worst, if not one of the worst teams last year, and they're a 6th seed this year. And what's really changed on that roster, really? Like, yeah, you had Tobias Harris and Malik Beasley, but like, are those guys that give you 30 more wins in a season? No. The coaching. Monty Williams didn't even want to be there. He said that. He's come out and said that since then. But Bickerstaff, he's always been a good coach. He's always kind of been a little bit underrated. I think he kind of got the short end of the stick in Cleveland. Obviously, that's worked out so far well for them. I think they're just going to run into the same problems they do every year. But I like Bickerstaff as a coach. I like what he's done with Detroit. Really brought some life back into this team. And that's a big jump. I don't think anybody else in the NBA has made that big jump this season, just in general. So
no.
I think, in my opinion, he has to be the front runner. Obviously, there will be other ones up there like Mark Daigneault and OKC, but it's like the second year they've done this. So give some props to the guy that's turning the stuff around.
Rico, you got any thoughts on that?
I mean, that is a hell of a pick. I mean, looking at the way that Detroit has been this year, like the turnaround, obviously at the start of the season, nobody's really thinking about them to make a playoff run or anything like that because of where they were last year. You look at the last couple of years, a lot of people looking at, damn, well, is Cade looking to be out at some point? Is he looking to request a trade? And then enter Bickerstaff, and he's like, he's really turning his team around. It's like Coach said, you got Malik Beasley and Tobias Harris as far as like guys on that team now, but are they like needle movers? Not necessarily. Ross is relatively the same, and looking at where they've been so far compared to last year, I mean, that's a damn good pick. I would personally say I would say Mark, but that's just me personally. I know Shea is kind of like running rampant right now. This team has been doing damn well with the roster that they have. I know they've had Chet in and out, they've had Isaiah in and out, and they're still looking to kind of just week after week after week kind of compete and just do what they can with this roster that they have right now. And a lot of these guys with J-Dub, Lou Dort, all these other guys on the squad, that it's a damn good team. They're sitting at the top of the West for a reason. and I think they're going to be there for the rest of the year. But I still feel like Mark Daniel still deserves, that praise for what he's done so far this year. So,
I would be 100% on board with you, Coach, if Bickerstaff could learn how to control Isaiah Stewart and his antics.
Can anyone control that man?
no,
Exactly.
I'm telling you, they need to just go ahead and have him try out for the Lions because the way he runs through people, the way he
hey, they
bothers
need a DN,
guards.
man. Next to Aiden. So,
For what it's worth, he's been one of the best rim protectors in the NBA this
Absolutely. And I agree with you where Bickerstaff has basically turned dust into gold, really, over there in Detroit. The emergence of Cade Cunningham, again, Cade's a lottery pick, so it was thought that eventually he'd be great. I do want to add to your point what he's done with the team despite the injury to Jaden Ivey. That was a bigger blow because the question was whose team it was. Was it Ivy's or was it Cade's? And that was going to be like some sort of dangerous 1-2 punch. And in the first couple of weeks, it was like this might be the dangerous 1-2 punch. And then Ivy goes out. Bickerstaff takes that team and he goes. So I don't know. Coaching and culture is having a lot to do with everything this season with some of these teams. So yeah, I like the pick. I went with Coach Michael Malone. And it's always sad when I shout out anything Denver and Iggy is not here to have a big Cheshire ear-to-ear smile because I feel like, yes, he's in a chat room full of Lakers fans and it's hard enough being in any area because where there's one Lakers fan, there's several thousand other loud ones in the area. So I'm pretty sure it sounds pretty loud. But what Coach Malone has done this season cannot be ignored, period. Denver is number 2. We did this show 4 weeks in, 5 weeks in, wondering what in the hell is going on with Denver. Jokic wasn't sitting games. Westbrook wasn't really working out. He was sort of getting it together. The team was completely injured, and everyone said, "This is the fall off. This is it." And the petty part of Lakers Nation was absolutely thrilled about where they were sitting at because as far as power rankings were concerned, they were a middling bottom of the team. They were down there with Milwaukee. They were down there with Philly. They were down there with Toronto. Everyone was just like, this team ain't doing nothing. This is great. We don't have to hear about who's your daddy now. We don't have to hear them quotes anymore. And now, there they are, right above the Lakers, the number 2 spot right now, sitting at a crisp 41-22. They also won. They got a game today, big game today against the number 1. Yeah, really big game today. So I picked Coach Malone because everything that he's done with these players, and some of those assists were a little bit iffy. How they counted for Jokic, but 30, 20, and 20.
Yep.
You're doing the best job as a coach with the best player on the planet, surrounded by. I want to say this. I want to say it's actually decent talent because these guys, despite what you can see immediately on paper and what the surrounding staff for Denver is able to bring, you have a bunch of like possible high talent all-stars in teams like Indiana and Orlando and teams like Atlanta and so on and so forth that have better media facing talent, but are doing a lot less than what Denver's doing right now. Denver can go in and take the number 2 spot from Boston in the East Coast right now. Right now. That's how good Michael Malone has gotten this team to. So that was my vote for Coach of the Year. We got to talk about the elephant in the room, though. because I don't think we're going to have time to get to MIP, Six Man of the Year. Coach, you and I agreed on defensive player. I think we're all in agreement. All the votes went to Dyson Daniels for defensive player of the year for right now, and it's only because Victor Wembanyama got a blood clot. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
No Triple J.
Triple J.
He might not even hit the threshold now.
He's there, but when it came down to it, availability was the issue for me. Wembanyama had played such good defense, he blocked himself, and that's the second time a Frenchman has done that. Shout out to Rudy Gobert. That's it. Victor Wembanyama's steals rate was up there, along with, I mean, his block rate was insane, but his presence, of course, is always immediately felt. The fact that the league had to scheme before the season started on how to play against him. Of course, we all said hips. Some players can do it, some players can't. I mean, league-wide, they said, okay, let's just get around him, scheme, and blah, blah, blah. But it took a DVT for you guys to get him out the way. You guys weren't moving this kid, okay? And next in line, immediately, from the start of the season, Dyson Daniels. The game that set it off, that put him in the position, was the first game, the first game that was eligible for the in-season tournament, and it was Atlanta versus Boston. And we saw the job that Dyson Daniels did on that front against Jaylen Brown, which got Atlanta to that win. I'm sorry, but like, there's no better defensive mixtape that you could put together than what Dyson Daniels has put together this season. So I believe, if I'm correct, we're all in accordance that Dunkin' Donuts out there has got the vote right now, and he's got it basically locked up unless Wembanyama does his alien BS and he comes back. But I think shut down means shut down. There's no way he can come back.
No, I think the Spurs kind of signed it in now too.
Good. Mm-hmm. Good. Get him in the mix. Stop with this middling. Maybe we can make. I said it. Maybe because the Chris Paul effect pushes teams to playoffs.
Yeah, but there's rumors they might just cut him soon.
CP?
Yeah. There's rumors they might cut him soon so he can go to a contender.
This year, really?
I've heard that this week.
Who can block CP3 going to the Lakers now?
Oh my God! Don't you start.
We got to get to MVP, y'all. We got to get to MVP. Most valuable player. All right. Rico, we're gonna start with you. Coach, we're gonna go to you next.
There's a good chance that the MVP race could come down to today's game. I'm gonna just keep it a buck with you. But for me, first and foremost, I think it has to be Shea. I think it is Shea. And this is no slight to Jokic, which I know a lot of people gonna look at me and say, "Oh, you're a Lakers fan. You're not gonna shut up." I respect gang. I give credit where credit is due. This man dropped a 30-20-20 triple-double. We'd never seen that before in the league. But Shea is just on a massive tear right now. I think if I'm wrong, please correct me. I think there was a stat I read where he's like leading the league in like 30-point games, 40-point games, and 50-point games, something like that. He's like one of the top scorers in the league. He's doing everything he can to be on the floor for this team through and through. He's putting everybody in the best position. He's carrying when he needs to. He's, getting people in the right positions when he needs to. And he's got a hell of a cast around him. And like I said, it's like a razor thin margin between him and Jokic, like personally. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's coming down to these two. And I'm not going to be upset either way of who wins it, because I think both of them are well deserving of the award.
Yeah.
But for me, at this current moment right now, and it could change, but as of right now, it is SGA.
Yep. Coach?
Yeah, so I agree. I think it's pretty much like two-man race now at this point in time. But even like the stat you're talking about with the points too, I shared one in the group chat. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander leading the league in points this year.
Yep.
Number two is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander through 3 quarters this year, and then it's everybody else. Like, that's how good he's been, and that's kind of like an Embiid stat. Like last year, Embiid, like at one point in the year, he had 10 13, 30-plus point games without playing the fourth quarter at all.
Stupid.
So there's a lot of similarities there, but I think there'll be some voter fatigue still on Jokic. Is he deserving? Sure. And I think I mentioned this too in my article. In my input was that best player on the best team, and he does have the highest win share according to Basketball Reference this year, 13.8. At the time of that article, obviously, there's probably numbers that did change a little bit since then.
And you know what? Now that I think about it, we're talking about win shares from Jokic to Shea. I think one of the issues. All right, so season award, right? Jokic was out for like a week, y'all, and Shea was still playing. So that was. I don't want to sit there and nitpick at the reasons why Jokic doesn't deserve it. That's not how this award works for me. This is my criteria. This is who fits it. That's it.
However, can I say one thing though?
Go ahead.
So I think it's 6 games Jokic has missed this year, right?
Yeah.
And 3 of them are because he had a kid.
Yep.
So I don't think we can really hold that against him too much.
We
can't hold that, but the NBA don't care. Like fans and voters don't care.
The writers might hold it against him. Hey, you missed those.
Literally just took the word out of my mouth. Like you can't. This is why it. And when I went into why Coach Malone deserves Coach of the Year, it wasn't. Keep in mind, I'm not saying Coach Malone deserves it because of what Jokic is doing. Coach Malone deserves it because of what Coach Malone is doing.
Yep.
Same as Shea. I have a criteria for what Shea is doing. Shea is on both ends of the ball. Okay, his defense has improved. It's starting to get. It's creeping slowly towards those like elite defender on an island kind of numbers. Like, oh, the kid can take care of himself, and very few players are able to play on both sides of the ball where you say, okay, he's fine. Okay, whereas. And I think it's getting harder to scheme against Shea. I think it's becoming eerily similar what teams are doing to scheme against Jokic. And I think I'm going to get a little long-winded with this. So keep this in mind. As far as the defensive part is concerned, JJ Redick before the season started said that he was going to try to make Anthony Davis MVP. Okay. He put Anthony Davis in a position to do certain things to become MVP. And I believe part of that was putting him in a position and getting the players available to be able to scheme to shut down the MVP talk for Nikola Jokic. I believe that game that Denver lost against Los Angeles is part of the reason why it's Jokic and then Shea, because teams are starting to be able to scheme against the game. Statistically, again, phenomenal, out of this world. But the stat that we keep forgetting is that at the end of the day, it's who wins the last game. Mm-hmm. And OKC right now is winning the last game. OKC is 1 game behind Cleveland right now, y'all. That gap is very small as who's the best team. Cleveland's doing an unprecedented thing right now, but so is OKC. And the head of that snake, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's you. If you want to, I mentioned this. It's very rare for a losing or middling team, middle of the pack team, to have an MVP. Russell Westbrook, he did that great Oscar Robertson thing, average a triple-double. And again, for all the stat heads out there, for anyone that played Russell Westbrook in their fantasy, of course, I'm sure all the writers got hella paid by whatever they got to vote Russ in. And I don't disagree with the choice, because what that was an unprecedented moment in history. And you got the accolades to prove it. But I think we're past that now. And you can either have your cake. You can't have your cake and eat it too on this one. It's either you take the stats and you take all the stats, or you go by one thing. Like you can't have it both ways. And for me, it starts with wins. when Denver gets the 1 seed, come holler at me about the MVP. Okay, we could have that talk. We can have that discussion again. But right now, Shay. Sorry.
How big is that gap between the 1 and the 2 seed? It was like 9.5 games.
I can tell you. I can tell you right now. I was just
That is
looking
a lot of ground to be making up.
I mean, sheesh, 11 games
between the 1 and 2 seed. Good Lord.
11. 11 games, y'all. And you know what? It's even worse because, like, in the East, 7.5. 11 and 7.5. Those are some, like, there's not much season left, y'all. That's a big ass gap. It's so big, in fact, that Cleveland, Oklahoma City, and Boston have all clinched the playoffs. They're all in.
Well, if you look at the East, though, look at the top 6 teams in the East, right? And then look at everybody else after that. It's such a drop off.
Oh
like,
my God.
There's not even a team with a winning record after like 6.
We're not having that discussion. No.
Wait, so the 7 to 10 range is like all teams below 500 in the East? Good Lord.
Just because I was looking the other day because I wanted to see which seed the Pistons had when I was talking about Coach of the Year for the little write-up, but I'm just like, I look at it and I'm like, there's 6 teams, and then everybody else is just bad.
And you know what? You have to blame the beginning of the season. This first half kicked a lot of teams' butt. Like, and it's not that it kicked their butts. It was that there's the winter months are like characters in Game of Thrones being sent to the wall. They might be popping off in their local kingdom, but you get sent to the wall, you may never get heard from again. We were talking about the likes of Chicago. We were talking about the likes of Toronto. We were trying to figure out what the heck was happening with Indiana, and Orlando was shooting its shot. Those 4 teams have all had very crazy trajectories since late December, early January. Okay. So yeah, it should come as a shock, but absolutely no shock to those that have been fine-tooth combing with this, that teams that got their wins early on are now falling off because either the higher ups made a decision that we're going to pull the plug on some of these guys. We're trying to be in the conversation for Cooper Flag. We're going to try and rebuild. We're going to get our younger guys going and see what they got, and then we'll figure it out for next season. Or they just didn't have the stuff. They ran out of whatever stuff they had, getting them on their epic takeoff. Because remember, for a little while, we were trying to figure out who won the trade between OKC and Chicago when Josh Giddey was over there balling out in Chicago early on this season. And now look at us. We're talking about an 11 game and a 7.5 game gap from the top. Okay. It's cream. And then you swim through for a long while before you get to the stuff. And that it's like a latte. All right. Cold foam on the top, cold ass teams, man. And you get all the way through. And then finally you wake up because that's when you finally hit the caffeine. Like, oh, this is the rest of the NBA. There they go. Boston in, Cleveland in, OKC in. Everybody else still waiting. And okay, so yeah, 1 through 6, Detroit. Atlanta's 30 and 34. That's it. That's the first play-in team. In the West, okay? Of course. All right. Well, Coach, you opened the can, so we might as well go ahead and go through it. 1 through 9 above 500. Dallas Mavericks at 32. Wait for it. And 32. The last team in is at 500.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but we find out West. Okay, I got something for y'all. Okay, so we already talked about MVP. We're into the standings right now. I did mention a little bit earlier. I think it's important to try to figure out of the top 6 You guys got any predictions on who's least likely to stay up there?
And you talking about East and West?
East and West. I got 3 teams for y'all. I got all couple. I want to see if y'all got these same 3 teams. Okay.
Go through the top 6 for me again, just so I can kind of.
All right. Top 6 in the East. Let's do that first. We already talked about Cleveland. We already talked about Boston. Then New York. And I think we should just go ahead and just keep it like that, because that should stay roughly about that despite the injury to Jalen Brunson. 4, 5, and 6 go Milwaukee, Indiana, then Detroit. That's 4, 5, and 6. Okay. And then in the West, we're talking about OKC, talk about Denver. We know, thanks to the standings, Lakers are number 3. Right after that, it's Memphis, Houston, and then Golden State at the number 6 spot. Have at it, fellas. You let me know 3 teams that aren't going to be there come the end of the season. You want to take it. Give me one.
I got the Rockets. But also, like, you have to keep in mind that, like, Minnesota is 7 and the Clippers are 8 right now too, and they're not that far off. So
no, they're not.
And I think Amen just got hurt too, right?
Amen Thompson. Yeah. That just destroyed my fantasy hopes this week. So yeah,
it's like, here, you guys are kind of doing all right, but they ride in waves so much. Houston does. Like, they look really good at the beginning of the year, then they slow down, then they look good for a while, and then they slow down again. Sengun's been dealing with his back again.
They're literally like a rocket.
And now Thompson's gone now.
Yeah. And again, that's not to take away from everything that like Alperen Şengün is doing right now. Every now and then, that guard play up front that steps up, and overall, I think Ime Udoka is doing a great job of getting this team pointed in the right direction, but consistency has just been very hard. Just because I think it's been hard for coach to find the rotation that works on both sides of the ball. He either has really good defense or really good offense, and not really a combination of both. And it's either because he's missing one guy or someone randomly has to step up. It's usually been Amen that's been stepping up, or Şengün that's had a random like 3 or something like that. And they played a lot of close games. So I think that's another reason why you see Houston falling off so much right now.
Mm-hmm.
That on top of the fact that, all right, here's the other team that's not going to be there. Okay. It's not going to be there come the end of this season. I don't think Indiana's going to be there.
No, they're not. And can I go off of one specific reason why? Like, I forget. They were playing last night. It was a situation where they were down 3. They're inbounding the ball, and no. I'm bringing this up. Pascal Siakam, unbeknownst to him, I don't. All right, I'm gonna preface it with this: as a coach, as a player in any sport, any game, any facet, the 3 things that you preach at any given time: score, time, situation. That should be embedded in your brain from the time you are out of the womb. I feel like if you're playing sports until you are long gone. Score, time, situation. Every time. This man is dribbling up the court. He's getting the ball inbounded. They're down 3. I think it's like 7 seconds left when the ball's inbounded after the free throws are made. He goes in for a layup. You are down 3. You are down 3.
No, it was not a layup.
Okay, dunk. All right, sorry. Layup, dunk. He went for 2 regardless. And the announcers are like, he goes up for a dunk. What is he doing? And I'm saying, like, you have got to be kidding me. You are down 3 in a situation where you need a 3, obviously, and you go to the rim. I don't know if you were thinking you was gonna get fouled or something. But
I can play devil's advocate with that,
bruh.
Coach, fill me on this. Play the foul game, right? They're gonna play 5 out. Play the foul game. I'm going to take what the defense is giving me. I'm going to try to get north to south as quickly as possible. Get my quick 2. Hopefully, there's enough time left to foul the other team, and that was against. Make sure who that was against.
Can't remember now.
I'm gonna find it right now.
Because I saw the highlight.
7 seconds left, right?
That was against the Hawks. That was against Atlanta.
It was Atlanta. Okay.
That was against Atlanta, our number 17. Okay, so Atlanta has some free throw shooters on there, but let me give myself the opportunity to. I can get the gap closer. Now I'm putting you in. You have to make both in order to make this thing matter, right? So when the ball went through, there was not enough time left to make a difference to play the foul game. Okay, because by the time someone inbounds the ball, they hit one. All they need to do is kind of like ricochet one to make it go super high or whatever, or erratic bounce. You don't got Steph Curry on your squad, so no one's going to hit a 3/4 court 3-pointer. Okay, so I hear you, but if you've been in situations before where you're clamming for a 3 and you're on a team where your 3-point accuracy is, hold on, let me pull it up real quick. See, this is why we have producers around here, because then they just pull up the stat real quick and we can throw those out there and make us seem like we're smart. But I got to do all the work. Damn it. And I'm gonna find it in a bit. They're not the best 3-point shooting team though. So
no. They don't got they don't got 3-point shooters left probably at that point. I don't know.
But here's my thing of it. You talking about a 5 out. If you're trying to make it a point to get a quick 2, you can't just be like casually bringing the ball up the court. Like, he didn't seem like he had that much urgency when he's bringing the ball up the court. That's my thing. If you're gonna play the long game and try to go for a 2, you gotta go. You can't just be like, oh, no. You gotta get on your horse and go. It's just that simple. Like, if that's the case, that's fine. You get and then you play the foul game. Cool. After a certain point, like you looking at the clock, though, you gotta like realize if you're gonna take this 2, book it. Don't just. That's all I'm gonna do. That's all I'm gonna say about that though. Like, you gotta book it if you're gonna go in a situation.
That's Siakam recognizing his personnel right there. He's probably looking at everyone like, y'all ain't got it.
Just take the 3. You know, at least you take the 3 then.
Exactly.
But that's what I'm saying. In a 5 out, like, again, you're talking about a team that's fielding who we picked as defensive player of the year. They got the personnel out there to guard the wings. So you're not getting a clean 3 off. So
I'm gonna go back and look at that clip and see who the 5 on the court was for that. Because like
Siakam said, my name is Denzel Washington, and I'm coming out here with something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if there is really 7 seconds left, I'm like, you don't got enough time to go down and play a foul game at that point.
Well, I mean, that's again, like to Rico's point, have a sense of urgency. But I don't think the personnel allowed him to really. It's Indiana. That's why I say Indiana's the other team out. All right, let me give you my third one out, and then we got to close out here real quick. We got a couple minutes left. Third team out, and let me know if you guys are feeling this or not. I don't know why, but I feel like with the shoulder injury, I think that Memphis is on their way to the play-in.
I looked at that, but they're a weird team. A lot of times they play better without Ja.
Right. Like last year, like what?
And I think so. Part of it is when you say that they play better without Ja. I saw the Memphis OKC game, and I was listening to Friday's game again of Memphis against Dallas, and I think that lingering injury is part of everything as far as the shot selection for Ja, which is why the offensive efficiency sometimes is down with him in the game. But also, he's getting bodied a lot, like mauled a lot, and I think it's part of the reason why you're starting. You see some of these sets just come up empty because he'll get hit, he'll get clipped, whatever, bad shot selection, whatever you want to call it, and it's not working out for them. So I'm hoping that one of these days he's going to get shut down for a couple of weeks, so that way he can rest that shoulder and get right for the playoffs. But I just think that if they keep playing him in the amount of time that they do, for the length that they do, I think that we're gonna see Memphis fall out of the top six, and that's just because the West is just too there's too much of a big of a traffic jam at this late in the season, and all the wins matter from this point on if you're trying to make the playoffs. Um, and out of all the teams that have some key injury in that top six and they're trying to make the playoffs, Denver's locked in. I think Denver now is not relinquishing that number 2 seed. I think the Lakers are going to fall down to about 4 or 5, given the LeBron James injury. Golden State looks like they can sustain just enough in order to have that last playoff spot, which is wild to say because we thought that they were a play-in at the beginning of the season. But we'll see what happened with them. It's just experience, availability, and execution this late in the game. I think that those 3 factors are working against Memphis. I think they're the last team that's out. Not to say that they won't make playoffs. I think that they're the best. I think that they're the worst best team right now. If you guys are following me.
Well, and they're a team, like, once you get playoffs time, it's probably like they're a team that's built better for the regular season because they have so much depth. Like, once you get to the playoffs and you shorten rotations, then that's where you see their flaws more.
I mean, we're not going to get all those Santi Aldama minutes. I'm loving them. I'm loving them for my fantasy, but we're not going to get them Santi Aldama minutes. Although he did execute some plays late in the playoffs last season. I think that they should find a way to utilize a guy like that more, but Santi Aldama's got to get into the mindset that is different out here when it gets like, coach, you hit the nail on the head. So I think that they're the worst best team out west. And so if we could take some of these teams, if we could like absorb Atlanta and absorb Indiana into the West, and then we could flip that for Memphis, maybe Houston and Golden State, I think that we would have a better playoffs, and we would stop bitching about the records across conferences. But hey, that's neither here nor there, and we'll fix the NBA another time. Guys, we got to get hurry up and get out of here. I got to go get warm. I got to go get changed. I got to get dressed. I got to unpack some more. You guys got some stuff to get to the rest of the day. Coach, what you got going on today? You got anything that you're looking at fantasy wise today?
Yeah, not too much going on today. So typically, for DFS stuff, it's Tuesday through Thursday for the core picks. So we'll be back at that for, tomorrow evening going into Tuesday. Like I said, I've been doing some NFL draft stuff as of late. So I got mock 2.0 with trades up on my channel. I was working on like a 7-round mock at the same time as well, which we'll see if that gets put up or not. And then I'm trying to think what else. So UFL, the United Football League, spring league, going to be starting pretty soon. So I'll probably go through they're in training camp right now. So I'll go through break down some of the rosters, what they're looking like, who's coming back to what teams, who I kind of expect to do things. And then once we get in the first week, I'll do some DFS content for that as well. So
Birmingham Stallions.
Yeah, three-peat. And they return a lot of guys, especially on offense. And Alex Magoo is returning, who was the USFL MVP 2 years ago.
Rico, what you got?
Like I said, I might try to start dropping some more stuff once playoff time comes around. Just kind of be on the lookout for stuff. I mean, JR, kind of like you said earlier, like the regular season is fast approaching as far as coming to an end, and we got the playoffs starting next month. Just about. So I mean, that's before we know it, postseason time gonna be here, and then we can see who the best of the best is, and it's gonna be a fun one. Like I don't know what to I don't know what to expect this year with the playoffs, but I feel like it's gonna be one of the most jam-packed playoffs we've seen in quite some time because there's a lot of stuff going on in the regular season that kind of sets up for the postseason that we don't know much about. Like, is Boston set to repeat? Like, do we know what this Lakers team is gonna be like? Going to the postseason. Golden State, are they gonna be able to make a push for another run? And then we're looking at out east, all these other teams and all the stuff, and look at the bottom of the West. what is Phoenix doing? What's up with Dallas? Like, there's a lot of stuff that we don't know that's gonna happen between now and the end of the regular season. What we just gotta wait and see how it plays out.
Guys, make sure that you tune in to the TSA Hoop Show every Sunday, 7:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for tuning in today. I am your freezing host, JR. Coach, thanks for joining us today. Rico, thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to tap into the website, thesportsaffiliation.com. Subscribe and like the channel. Like this video. You know, we actually like when you guys give us a thumbs up. That lets us know that it's actually worth it to get up at 7:30 in the morning and do this every Sunday. Okay.
After losing an hour of sleep too.
Mm.
I'm telling you, I looked up and I saw it was still dark outside. I said, no. No. But no, we appreciate you guys, your time, love, and effort. And as always, peace, love, and chicken grease. We out, y'all.